also on the commission.
Felicia Battles Birdsong, also on the commission.
Ducia Levolskaya, also on the commission.
And on the phone, we have
Daria Spinini from the Institute. And Eugene Bloss from the commission.
anybody else? Okay, great. Next, we're going to approve the January meeting minute, but before we do, Jessica has an amendment to discuss to the minutes.
Thank you so much, Carl. So it's been brought to our attention under the section of the commissioner's report when we're speaking about, I believe it's the fourth paragraph down, in which we're talking about the RIDE pilot program in Uber. So it says Elizabeth Dean Clower said it's possible to exceed the $40 limit in the Uber pilot program. That is being amended to say Elizabeth Dean Clower said the MBTA will increase their allotted payment from $13 to $14 per trip, and that client pays any additional amount in the Uber pilot program. So it's simply being amended to add more correct information and more detail.
Motion to approve minutes.
Any seconds?
A second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting minutes approved. Next, we have Commissioner McCosh's report.
Thank you, Carl. I'm actually feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'm going to ask Jessica to give the report. It's basically mainly what we've been doing for the past month is organizing our lineup of spring events. So Jessica is going to talk about the events we have coming up and a few other initiatives she's been working on, like language access and deaf tax days.
Sure, thank you, Commissioner. I apologize, Board, that I most likely won't actually be able to provide you the exact dates because I left that document on my desk, but I will make sure that all of the dates are sent out to you guys by tomorrow or Monday. So first of all, one of the things that I'm involved in is the ASL Tax Days. I think it's the third annual round that we've done, which is a partnership with the Tax Help Coalition, which is a city department, National Disability Institute, as well as Deaf Inc. And so we hold 3 ASL Tax Days that are all-day events at Deaf Inc. And we provide ASL interpreters and tax preparers and do the deaf community's taxes for free. So on last week, Saturday, we held our first one at Deaf Inc. And we did, with the help of 4 tax preparers and an army of ASL interpreters and deaf interpreters, we did almost 20 individuals' taxes. We'll have another one on March 17th, and then April 7th. We'll have 2 more tax days. It was very successful and I think was very well received, which is great. So that's an ongoing initiative that we have as part of the Deaf Taxes Task Force that we work to increase financial empowerment for the deaf community. A couple other events that are coming up. We have a transportation summit, which is the first time that we've had an event of this kind. We're working with the MPO, the Metropolitan, Commissioner. Metropolitan Planning Organization, to kind of get the opinions and the thoughts of the disability community related to different transportation topics. So Uber, Lyft, the RIDE, general transportation infrastructure, things like that. And so the MPO is putting those thoughts together for their 4-year plan moving forward. And that'll be March 27th at the Boston Public Library from 1:30 to 3:30. We're working on finalizing the flyer, and then we'll be able to send that info out to you guys as well. We've also solidified the date for the community forum, which will be May 23rd. Yes, I'm getting them right without having to look at a sheet on my desk that I left. So, and that'll take place from, I believe, 1 to 4 at the Boston Public Library as well. And once we finalize that flyer, we'll be able to get that info out to you as well. We're also working on ADA Day and a bunch of different staff trainings, as well as doing interviews for the open board seats that we have. So hopefully you guys will have more neighbors sitting around you around the table in the coming months, which we're really excited about. Commissioner, am I missing anything?
Just a brief word on the language access policy.
Oh, sure. So the language access policy is something that the mayor signed about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago.
What is it again?
It's the Language and Communication Access Ordinance. So what that does is it talks about, it creates a language access plan for all city departments. That includes both spoken languages, ASL, CART, accessible formats for online, all sorts of, it covers simultaneous interpretation as well as translating documents and things like that. So within the last year, they've hired a language access coordinator. His name is Manar, and she is located in the Office of Neighborhood Services, and she's been working very hard over the last couple months to kind of meet with different departments and see what their needs are, see what their communication access plans are already, and then working on how can we kind of streamline that process. What are the needs? What are the gaps? And so one of the things that will be happening is our office, since we were part of the initial creation of the ordinance, will continue to sit on the working group as we kind of finalize a rollout plan for different departments and across the city in general. Great.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jessica.
No problem. Thank you.
Before Jessica goes, does anybody have any questions for Jessica or the commissioner?
Thanks, Carol. I'm actually going to excuse myself from the meeting, but I will see you next month. Thank you all.
All right.
Feel better.
Next is, we're moving the agenda around tonight. So next is the Office of Refugee, forgive me, I'm having trouble reading the agenda. The Office of, for Immigrant Assistance Advancement. Sorry.
Let me see. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. Yes. So I just want to, first of all, introduce myself. My name is Carol Leon. I am the Outreach and Engagement for the Mayor's Office for Immigrant Advancement. And I want to say thank you to Jessica for inviting me to this meeting today. So the reason why I'm here today is because I want to tell you a little bit about the work that we do at the Office for Immigrant Advancement. So whenever I give a presentation about the office, I always like to ask how many people have heard of the office before. Sometimes I get a surprising number of hands that go up, or sometimes I get no hands that go up. And that's the reason why I'm here, right? Because I want to know how many people know about the office. So if I can get a show of hands, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have one person who's sitting over here. So I'm really happy that Jessica asked me to be here today. So the Office for Immigrant Advancement was founded in 1998, and it was known as the Office of New Bostonians. So maybe that rings a bell. We went through a rebranding process in 2016, which I think it was a very timely rebranding process. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because we would get a lot of people coming from Brookline or from Chelsea coming into our office and saying that they were New Bostonians because they had recently moved to Boston. So we discovered that it didn't really resonate, the name of the office, with the immigrant community. So we decided to change the name of the office to the Mayor's Office for Immigrant Advancement. So the mission of the office is to make sure that immigrants in the city of Boston are integrated into the civic, economic, and social life of the city. But not only that, we also think that it's very important for all city departments and for not only for us to be doing outreach to the immigrant community, but really for other city departments to think about including the immigrant communities when they are doing programs and when they are doing outreach for the services that they offer. So what I want to tell you about are about the 2 handouts that were passed down today. So I want to tell you the first one is our immigration clinic handout, which is this one right here. And I shared the links with Jessica as well. Our resources are on our website. It's very easy to find us. It's boston.gov/immigrants. So the first one is our immigration clinic. Our immigration consultation started in 2001. So contrary to what some people might believe, we didn't start these clinics recently. They have been happening for quite a long time. So these clinics are basically, we have volunteer attorneys that come to City Hall, and we offer free consultations, one-on-one confidential consultations with an immigration attorney. Why is this important? For 2 reasons. One of them is because immigrants actually come to City Hall, and they have maybe one of their first interactions with City Hall when they come to our clinic to get the service. And the second one is that we also want to make sure that the immigrant community has access to reliable information from a licensed immigration attorney. One of the issues that are that we have in the immigrant community is that there are fraudulent attorneys, something that's very well known as notary publics. In Latin America and in other countries, they're usually lawyers, but here in the United States, they're not. So they do what it's called the unlawful practice of immigration law, and this is one of the ways that we can combat the issue. So the consultations are free. We offer them the first and the third Wednesday of the month, and we have definitely seen a rise in attendance in the past year. And that's also been due to the announcements that have been made regarding immigration at the federal level. So I definitely wanted everyone to know about that service. Going off the immigration clinic, one of the other programs that we have been working on recently are large-scale immigration clinics. So there are so many people that we can help on a given day for only 2 hours with 3 or 4 attorneys. So what we have done, and a model that has worked really well before, is partnering with nonprofit organizations to organize a larger event. So this time around, actually in March 24th, we are partnering with an organization called Centro Presente that's based in East Boston to organize a larger scale clinic where we can provide assistance to immigrants that might need to talk to an immigration attorney, and we're mostly focusing on assisting immigrants that have TPS. For those who are not familiar with TPS, TPS stands for Temporary Protected Status, and it was a status that was given to immigrants from countries that were affected by either a natural disaster or maybe there was a civil war in that country, and when they came here to the United States, they were assigned this temporary protected status. Just to give you an idea, immigrants from El Salvador, they have had TPS since 2001, which means that they have been renewing their TPS for many, many years. So they have created lives here in the United States. They are very important parts of their community. And the announcement of the end of the Salvadoran TPS came last year towards the end of the year. So what this means is that people who have temporary protected status will lose the work permit that they have been granted through this program, and they will basically have to return to their country of origin. So the reason why we have this clinic is because immigrants that have this status, they might be eligible for what we call other forms of immigration relief. So, for instance, if you're a victim of a crime or you're a survivor of domestic violence, and those are 2 examples, you might be eligible to apply for a visa that will allow you to stay here. So that is the reason why we're organizing these clinics. The other TPS that was recently ended was the Haitian TPS. And the reason why I mention these is because the 3 largest immigrants communities in Boston, the number 1 is from China, number 2 is from the Dominican Republic, and the 3rd largest immigrant community in the city of Boston is from Haiti. So we are currently working on a partnership with community leaders in the Haitian community to organize another clinic with that community as well. We also do other work. And I definitely wanted to touch base a little bit about the immigrant integration work that I don't do, but that one of my colleagues actually works on. And the immigrant integration work is basically focused on one of the parts of the mission of the office, which is making sure that immigrants have access to city services. So one of the examples of this immigrant integration agenda has been, one of my colleagues was very involved in a campaign. I don't know if anybody voted early in last year's campaign. I don't know if anybody did. Raise your hand. No? Yes? Okay. So you probably got a mailer in your mail. Like, I remember I opened my mail and I got this little mailer with information about early voting. And you might not have noticed, but that mailer was actually translated into different languages. And one of the reasons why that happened is because Selena, who's one of my colleagues, was involved in the process of planning the early voting campaign, and she made sure that they thought about translating the materials, and we were assisting them in doing outreach to the immigrant community so they knew that this program was happening. So that is a little bit of a part of the immigrant integration agenda that has been happening in the office. One other thing that I wanted to mention, which is regarding policy, which I think it's really, really important for everyone to know. And I don't have all the technical skills that I wish I had. That's usually my colleague Ann, who's our communications and policy advisor, but I wanted to mention the Trust Act. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Trust Act here. I will explain it in very lame terms. The Trust Act is a resolution that was passed by the City Council that basically limits the cooperation between Boston Police Department and immigration officers. So when all this rhetoric came down from the federal government, I remember one of the most powerful things that I have seen Commissioner Evans do was go to one of the biggest congregations in East Boston and talk to the immigrant community about the fact that BPD is not, they're not immigration officers. And that's something that I definitely wanted to talk a little bit about, because it's very important to keep the trust between the immigrant community and the Boston Police Department. But not only that, I think it's also very important for the immigrant community to know that the city is there for them. And the mayor has been very outspoken about that, and we definitely mention it when we go out there into the community. So I just wanted to put a note on that. If you have any questions about anything that I talk about today, I am more than happy to send Jessica links to reports and information, if it's demographic information, if it's about the Trust Act, if it's about the programs that we have, flyers about these programs. I would be incredibly happy to send that information to all of you. And then one last thing that I definitely wanted to mention is that if you do ever encounter someone that is an immigrant and you work with them and you're trying to wonder, where do I refer them to, you can always refer them to our office. We're happy to do referrals. We work with a lot of different community organizations, and a lot of the work that we do are referrals. And the reason why that is because we do not have the capacity to help everyone, but we do have the capacity to direct people in the right way. So if everything fails, if you cannot think of anyone, I hope that you can think of our office as a resource for the immigrant community. We're incredibly happy to help, and we are there for the immigrant community. So I just definitely wanted to mention that. And I am happy again to pass along our contact information to Jessica so she can give it to you. My contact information, I speak Spanish. We have a very multilingual office. I think the only language that we're missing is Haitian Creole, which I really wish we had someone who could speak it. But we have a couple of people who speak Spanish. One of my colleagues speaks Cantonese. I have another colleague who speaks Vietnamese. And in between all of us, we try our best. But if everything fails, 311 also has a language line. So if someone calls and they don't speak the language, 311 can help. And if someone comes to our office, especially for immigration clinic, we also use the language line to provide interpretation. So with that said, I know I have 5 minutes, and I want to make sure that I leave time for questions. So I want to open it up to questions if there's any.
Does anyone have any questions for Carol?
You answered mine. I had two, but you answered them while you were talking. And I do want your contacts.
Yes, here's Ducia. I do have two questions maybe. So first of all, I want to tell you that I really appreciate you coming here and really appreciate the information. And I also want to tell you that I thank you very much for what you do. And I find it fantastic that you're working with the police together, because that's really crucial. And so my first question is just more like a general question. Mm-hmm. I heard you at the beginning of your presentation, you said something, I forgot the title, immigration advancement, there was an advancement word. I'm just generally curious, is there a meaning to it, or that just?
Yeah, I was a little bit part of the process. We actually worked with a consulting firm to do the rebranding of our office. And we had staff meetings, and we were talking about, what do we think is the best title for the office? And I think that, there are a lot of offices. I want to talk about this because our office is very unique. There's not a lot of offices that work with the immigrant community within the municipality around the country. And there's a lot of other offices that are like Office of Immigrant Affairs and things like that. But I think the word advancement is very crucial, because the thing is that we want to make sure that immigrants are given the tools to really achieve the goals that they have. And, you know, we don't want to like only be there to help people, but we also want to make sure that we're giving them the tools to really succeed. So I think that, at least like if you were to ask me for my perspective on the word, I think that that's what I would say. Mm-hmm. And I really love it. I think it's a lot more empowering to the immigrant community to know that there's an office to help them advance them rather than to only help them, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think that that's a little bit of the thought behind it.
Good. Right, and yeah, the second question I have, okay, I admit I'm not very familiar really with the process of when you call 311, mm-hmm. But you did mention that you would use 311. So my questions would, is that involves the process, like if you have someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, are you able to use that? Ask 311 like to get service to get someone who speaks American Sign Language or other kind of sign language?
I am not too familiar with the process that they have for that. I think Jessica might be able to answer that question a little bit better than I can. What I'm familiar with is the language line, but I'm sure that they must have a system for that. I don't know if you want to jump in.
Sure. Yeah, go for it. I apologize. Just I believe I only heard the second half of the question, which I believe is what do we do for 311 when a deaf constituent calls? Is that true?
Yeah. So when someone comes to their clinic, quote unquote, with someone who's deaf or
for the immigration clinic.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So
I will then defer to Carol. I can also answer it, but I know that Carol can answer that question related to the immigration clinic.
Yeah. So usually for that, we actually, and it's on the flyer as well, we ask people that if they need interpretation that they give us a call. So we will arrange for someone to assist us with that beforehand. And even if they come to the clinic and they need assistance with that, I would probably usually call Jessica for it. But we would definitely want to have someone who's like certified and who's a professional. So, because this is the other thing, right, is that it's, when it's a legal consultation, there's a lot of very technical words that you're using for that. And that is the reason why we really encourage people to give us a call in advance so we can set up something for them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, I am going to piggyback on that. I am going to piggyback on that, actually. Yeah, so in the past, in my experience, they have always, when people have made referrals or people have contacted them, they have hired professional sign language interpreters. Okay. If there was a one-off in which a deaf constituent came into the office specifically for these consultations, what would happen is that most likely I would come down and explain exactly what Carol explained, of the fact that due to the nature of the consultations, I actually am not equipped to provide service, but would work with the constituent and Carol and their office to essentially to reschedule so that they're able to come to another clinic and are able to get the services needed.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's any other questions.
We have one from the public, Carl.
Hold on one second. I just want to see if there's anybody on the phone that has any questions. Anybody on the phone have any questions? Okay. We will entertain questions from the public, but only with regard to the Office of Immigrant Advancement. Go ahead.
Yeah. Should I?
State your name.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Dienklauer, resident of Boston. It recently was brought to my attention that people who come from other countries often aren't aware for children in the school system of individualized educational plans, the IEPs. And I don't know if this might be an interface issue where the Disability Commission could be of help, or if that's already up and running. But I know someone who specifically has a child with autism, and when she first arrived years ago from Vietnam, she was not familiar, she did not speak English at the time and was not familiar with those services and had to educate herself along the way. And now, even in 2018, is running into people who come from other countries who have children in this case, who are on the autism spectrum and are not aware of those services, to ask for them at the schools or how to work with the school system, but that you having to be proactive, and that also some of them have a cutoff that if your child is older than age 9, sorry. So I just didn't know if that was something your office is already familiar with and helping address, but I know that that is a problem out in the community for people.
It's back here. So I'm actually really glad that you brought that up, because that's not, at least for me, I have been in the office for 2 years, and it might be something that maybe some of my colleagues have already worked on in the past. But what I would be happy to do is that I would be happy to just like check in with my team about that. And if it's not something that we have been working on, I think that it's something that we can work with a commission on. And not only that, I think it would be something that's also worth bringing up to BPS. Because if it's something that's like an institutional, if it's something that needs to be addressed like with the BPS as an institution, I think that it's something that we would definitely need to bring up to them. So thank you so much for that, and I'll make sure to check on that. And I don't know if there's any mechanism to follow up with you, but I'll be in touch with Jessica, and I'll let you know if there's any progress on it. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you very much. That was very informative.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. And again, if you have any questions, count on me. You can send me an email. You can give me a call. Jessica has my contact information. Thank you.
Go ahead and give out your email address.
Yes. So do you want me to say it verbally? So my email address is super easy. It's my first name, which is Carol, CAROL, .Leon, LEON, @boston.gov. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Next, we have an update from the MBTA and Dana Nye. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name.
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Hello. Hi, please, this is Jessica. Please bear with us just for a moment while we set up the PowerPoint.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We're just going to set up the PowerPoint for a minute, Carl. It's just going to take a second.
I want to acknowledge Jerry Boyd, who joined us in the meeting. I hope we're all photogenic while we're on TV waiting.
Right. Just going to make sure.
I got a little caught up on the way in, chasing skateboarders off the steps.
Plaza.
Could have been there all day.
Well, why don't I go ahead and give, if you need a few more minutes, I'll give a quick interim chair's report.
Great. Thank you, Carl.
Okay. So on Monday night, the mayor had I guess I'd call it a thank you reception for all the boards and commission members that serve the city of Boston. And there were 4 of us from the Disability Commission in attendance. Myself, along with Jerry Boyd, Kyle Robidoux, and Ducey, is that right?
Ducia.
Ducia. I'm sorry, I knew I would screw that up. We were all in attendance, and the mayor gave an update of what's going on in the city of Boston and talked about issues such as housing, education, the opioid crisis, and a number of other issues. So it was a nice event. I wanted to let the community know that there are a number of advocacy days coming up at the State House. This is budget season, so there's a lot of advocacy days. On March 8th is Deaf and Hard of Hearing Constituent Day. On March 13th is Blind Legislative Information Networking Day. On March 29th is Deaf Blind Awareness Day. On March 7th is also Developmental Disability Council is also having an event. And most important is on Friday, March 16th, is the Ways and Means hearing, which is open to the public, which anybody in Gardner Auditorium at 10 a.m. and anybody from the whole entire state can come and testify at the Ways and Means hearing on any part of the budget that may impact them directly. And that's an important opportunity to come and advocate for your need and let the legislators know firsthand what your concerns are about the budget. So that's my brief report. Are we ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I'm going to turn it over to Dana Nye from the MBTA.
Good evening, everyone. As he said, my name is Officer Dana Nye. I'm with the Transit Police Department. I do community outreach for our department on a variety of different aspects. But tonight I came to kind of introduce to you, if you don't already know about it, we have an app that you can put on your Android or iPhone that we've gotten incredible feedback on, in that it's accessibility, but also in that it makes people feel a little bit safer because of the manners in which it can be used. And I'll go through it step by step with you and walk you through either how to download the app onto your phone or what have you, but also what options and what features the program has. So if you were to download the app, is that big enough for everyone to see? Is that clear enough? Yes? Okay. So that's basically the home screen that comes up when you download the app, which if you decided to download it, you would search it by MBTA SEESAY, so SEESAY. That's the home screen. So even right off the bat, it tells you it's very quick that if you pulled it up and you wanted to report a problem or call the police, you could do it very quickly. If you call 911 from a cell phone, it automatically goes to the state police. That's except in the city of Boston, excuse me. In the city of Boston, it goes to the Boston Police Department. But cell phones generally go to the state police. They then determine where's the call for service needed, and then they transfer it to the appropriate department. For this case, if you're on the T or if you're involved in an issue that's happening on the T, this goes right to the dispatcher who can contact us immediately. So it's a little bit of a time saver, maybe seconds, but sometimes, Lord knows, seconds can save a life. So that's one feature there. One of the things, if you were to click on that report a problem or report a crime, or it says report a problem, excuse me, on the button that says report a problem, you can actually, it gives you several different options. And the first would be that you can take a photo. You can actually, anybody here, everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, many people use their cell phones to take pictures. It's often a little less intrusive than if you were to, this app, by the way, to pick up the phone and call the police. It seems a little more anonymous, shall we say, and a little less like you're putting yourself out there by using this app. If you're able to safely take a photo, you can take a picture and send it right to us. Again, these go directly to the desk of the dispatcher, who's able to then tell us right on the radio what's going on. So the information's coming right up in front of them, and they can also disseminate the photo to officers on their cell phones if necessary, or give a better description based on what they can see. So that's the first part. So that's the take a picture function. Next, you can select the report type. Well, actually, we can go right through the selecting report type. It gives you a drop-down menu with all sorts of different things that you can report to us. It may even be a complaint about service. That could come through here as well. We would then forward that information on to the appropriate parties, whether it be an inspector or whether it be some sort of customer service complaint that needs to go through Park Plaza. We would send that through as well. But if someone was to see an issue that they wanted to report to us, we can get right to it. We have a system-wide accessibility meeting that we have at Park Plaza on a monthly basis as well that I often attend. And very often we get from individuals that see buses parked in people parked in bus stops, which is supposed to be accessible for everyone. So if a bus can't pull into a bus stop, someone may or may not be able to get either on or off the bus. So we find that to be something that's important for us and for our patrons. So that would be something. We've had a few folks that we showed how to use this app. They have taken pictures of vehicles, of course, with the license plate and where they are. Very easy for us to respond to something like that. And in fact, technically, we can actually mail a ticket over the phone, or mail a citation to someone. So that's depending on the city or town that's in. But let's say it happened in Malden, though. There's a vehicle parked on a bus stop in Malden. They send that into our dispatcher. If we can't get there quickly enough, we can call the Malden Police Department and ask them to go out and write a citation. So it quickens up the process of us being able to respond to calls for service. So some more things that you could, I just scrolled down on the report types, even unruly behavior, which can be frightening to folks, kids on the T. Anybody here travels anywhere during school times, I'm sure that you've seen that the kids get a little riled up, shall we say. Unattended children sometimes will do that. So anyway, unattended bags and packages are also on there as well. So anything along those lines that you wish to report to us, or even other, and you can type in what the issue is manually. So you can take a picture, you can take a video and send it to us as well, by the way. So back to that take a photo option. I should have put this earlier. This is our chief of police's office. This is just me this is using that to take a picture with. So if you were to take a picture, you use the blue button down below. You would then hit the check mark button on the bottom left there. That means it accepts it and is ready to send it. It attaches it right to the report, and then you can explain. You can either type in that box there what you wish to tell us about, or you can go down to the drop-down menus like the select a report type or select a location. And we'll go into the location as well. Locations, pretty much anywhere that you would be on the MBTA, the locations would be available to you here. Blue line, red line, even on the commuter boats, et cetera. Let's say, for example, I clicked on the blue line. It comes up with all of the blue line stations that would be on the blue line so that you could then choose quickly which one you want. It's a little quicker than typing everything out. Back to that, so our complaint here was regard to the chief's office, so to speak, with the picture. It's a comment or complaint in regard to government center. That's some of the things that we would have, I hypothetically chose on here. Then the bottom there, excuse me, second box to the bottom, it says anonymous. You can send a report to us, a report, complaint, whatever it might be to us anonymously. What it does not grab your phone number. What it does do is it does give us a geographical location. Because let's say, for example, somebody gets into a fight with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and she's in Malden, and she calls up to say, my boyfriend just punched me at Government Center. Well, we go to Government Center, and there's nobody there. Is it possible? Sometimes people make false reports. It happens. So that geographic location basically can actually tell us whether or not, if somebody's calling us from California to report there's an unattended bag somewhere, we're definitely still going to look at that. But it gives us a little bit of concern, or it gives us an opportunity to check into, is this possibly not a correct call, or not a legitimate call? So then that bottom button there says send report. Again, it goes directly to the dispatcher's desk. You can type in things like, I typed in here, for example, there's a person smoking on the inbound platform. If you folks do choose to download the app and use it, please try to be as specific as possible when you're in a station as to which platform you're on, or which bus number you're on if you do that, if you're calling from a bus, or if you're in a train car and you see that there's a problem on the train car, please report to us. Every train car and every bus has an assigned number, so just something to keep in mind for the future. So back to the app a little bit, some more options that are available. As I said before, you can call us directly. Now the menu's down below on the bottom there. I'm sorry, that one on the far left there, which, forgive me, because it's somehow not coming up on my computer screen. It's the MBTA.com app. So you can actually get right on the MBTA.com website directly through here. And it would be able to give you all sorts of different information, whether there were scheduling issues or maps of the stations or bus routes, that sort of thing. That would be accessible through there. I use it a lot because I take the commuter rail sometimes, and I find this app to be quicker than the MBTA app. I don't know why. No offense to anyone. But I find that this just works a little bit more easily for me, maybe because I'm used to it. So say, for example, you're looking to see the next train coming through Needham. You click on Needham. It would then tell you what the next coming trains were, et cetera. This is when you sign on to the app as well. It offers you different types of alerts that you can get. So say, for example, you take the Needham line all the time, and you're getting ready to go to the train station, it will shoot you an alert if, say, for example, your train's delayed. Such and such, the Needham line, for example, train number 603 is going to be 10 minutes late. Well, now you got a chance to get a cup of coffee, so honor near service. Anyway, back to the app again. So this is, again, the home screen. So those are some different options that are available. So that's that second button down there for the alerts. The third thing down there is the settings. So what you can do is you can actually send an alert in, I'm sorry, this is back to the alerts again. I think my slides got mixed up. I apologize. So this explains what the alerts are that you would be requesting the app to send to you. So forgive me, I bounced around too much. Providence Stoughton line, that's the train I sometimes take, so you would check that off. And then it would tell you, you can put in your information here, and it actually tells you, again, which trains would be coming or going if something was canceled, something along those lines, severe weather effects, that sort of thing would come through here. So as well, on the settings, you can look through all these sorts of different things. This explains who basically wrote the app and that sort of stuff. But it also, excuse me, I just lost my place. Oops. Sorry, I'm not a pro at this stuff. Please forgive me. On this particular box here, at the top of the screen, it says MBTA CSA. It explains a little bit more about what a difference is between an unattended package and a suspicious package for those who don't know, and sometimes people don't know. An unattended, and it goes directly through it, and it's very descriptive, and it's fantastic. An unattended package, I'll just go through it real quickly in case anybody needs to know. An unattended package would be, say, for example, I was rushing to go get the bus and I left my pocketbook. That might be considered, looking at it, doesn't look suspicious in any way. There's nothing I can articulate to say that it would be suspicious. Now, if someone left a pocketbook and it had some wire sticking out of it, or if someone left a pocketbook that had, we literally saw a package, we had a package at South Station one time that was ticking. Somebody had an old school alarm clock, because they were like, if the power ever goes out, I want to make sure I'm not going to miss my flight or my meeting. Old school alarm clock that somehow got triggered inside the bag. Literally shut down South Station. But regardless, that would be a suspicious package to us. So that's it explains very clearly what some of the differences are and things to look for. Anything that might be leaking, something along those lines. If you can't see into it, maybe where it's placed. We had some pictures in another PowerPoint that I did, was a huge box that was left underneath the seats of a train car. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm carrying a big, huge box, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to forget it. That's going to make up most of my day, just trying to figure out where to get that package to and from. So that explains it a little bit better for folks who might not know. Also goes into what See Something, Say Something is. We are looking for folks to be our eyes and ears, whether you're on the T or not. Feel free to call us. If you call us and it's not something that pertains to us, we will transfer the call as well. Say, for example, if you were at Park Street, on Park Street, as opposed to at Park Street Station, and there was any confusion, we would transfer it over to the Boston Police or the State Police, depending on whatever the issue might be. So that explains a little bit more about that. Other than that, I think that pretty much covers it. Talks a little bit about preventing terrorism. So again, that's back to the See Something, Say Something, where that comes from. We also bring this information to schools and whatnot and teach the kids how to do this as well. But See Something, Say Something sounds very simple, but it has been an incredibly useful tool for us in terms of seeing and finding things that we might not see. We can't be everywhere at once. So there's thousands and thousands of tea patrons, and they've been incredibly helpful in seeing things that we might not, or reporting things to us that we may need to address. I just want to make sure I get everything else. It also talks about our security inspections. Yep, it happens. And in fact, we've had quite a few people say, "You get me all the time." It literally is a computer-generated number system that, I don't know how that does it, some sort of computerized random thing, and it gives us a list of 100 numbers, and then once we get past the 100th customer, we go back again, so now it's 101 and 107, or however that works. So, but, if somebody refuses to participate in the bag, now we don't search bags, by the way. We only test the outside of bags for trace elements of explosives. So if you happen to be someone who works with those things, it would be a good idea to tell us ahead of time. If we get a hit on a bag, then we bring the dog in and then we address it from there. But if you do refuse to go through that inspection, again, it's not going into your bag. You will be asked to leave the station and very likely be at least asked for your identification, et cetera. The two gentlemen who bombed us on Marathon Monday, they did use the T as practice runs. When they went to, we found them on recordings earlier. One of our inspectors actually saw them on the T the day before. So, and they would have had trace elements of explosives on their persons or anything they might have been carrying, because it takes only a few molecules for even the dogs to be able to pick it up, but certainly the machines are very sensitive to that. So, sorry. A little bit more about safety if you're interested. There's some safety tips there. Victim assistance, our crime statistics are available here. General safety information, reaching us, any questions you might have about the transit police ourselves, they would be on here as well. Emergency instructions, et cetera. What to do if you get a ticket, several things along those lines. So, may I ask if anybody has any questions or if I can clarify anything for anyone?
So this is available now for download on both Android and Apple?
Yes, sir.
iOS, okay.
Either in the Google Store or Apple iStore. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you also mentioned that they're fairly accessible. Did we do user testing to make sure that they both work, say, with VoiceOver and TalkBack?
VoiceOver and TalkBack, I got to be honest with you.
VoiceOver, so if I'm blind, I can use this app?
If I'm not mistaken, you can. I know that it was tested, but I don't know the testing process itself. So I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to answer your question. I apologize. And I realize now that by using the word accessible, I realize what you're saying. But I don't know if it was vetted for all of that, for visually impaired or what have you.
So did you mean accessible differently than how I view accessible?
Possibly, and I might have meant by it's quick and easy to get to. Okay. Easy to look for, et cetera.
Okay.
Yes,
does anybody else on the commission or on the phone have any questions for Dana regarding this app?
No.
Jerry. So, since there may be issues in terms of accessibility for folks who need those options, how would we find out, how accessible the app is, or is there some way we can check?
I can check with our system-wide accessibility office. We just recently did a full overhaul of our website as well to make sure that it was accessible. And I can reach out to them, and I'm sure that they probably had some say in the development of this.
Right,
but I can't confirm that.
Confirmation of that, though.
Yeah, so. I can absolutely do that.
Thanks so much.
I wish I could text them real quick right now. I don't know if I can get an answer after 5 o'clock.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. No problem.
Does anybody from the audience?
There's one from the audience.
Yeah. Does anyone from the audience have a question as it pertains to this app?
Yes.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Well, we can hear Olivia without the microphone.
No, but
I know, I'm just kidding.
I've used your app, and I know for a fact it's compatible with VoiceOver. Because I used it when I was attacked on the Orange Line, and I was able to scroll down to call transit police right away. And, you know, when the guy was intoxicated and threw the handle at my head, he basically was like, you know, coming at me, and I'm like, this is not good. So I got the car number from another passenger because I couldn't really see it. And I used an earlier version. It didn't have your 50th anniversary logo on it, but yeah, back when you were rollers, you know.
Great.
So I know for a fact it at least works with VoiceOver. I don't know about TalkBack on Google.
Well, thank you for that. I'm sure it does. System-wide access is usually pretty on
Pretty
top.
on top of things generally. Fantastic.
Any other questions for Dana? All right, well, thank you very much, Dana.
Thank you.
Next, we have an architectural access update from Patricia Mendez.
I don't worry. This thing's so old, I'm surprised it even turned on.
Sorry, Carl, give us a second.
What was that?
They're
I
disconnected.
said, sorry, Carl, give us a second.
I don't have any more jokes to tell, so.
That's probably a good thing.
Just before you go, how long did it take you to learn PowerPoint? Simple question.
I had to get my kids to teach me how to do it.
But, you know, 3 months.
Possibly, and I'm not quite a pro yet, but I did have to take a course on it when I had to do it in regard to teaching.
Thank you so.
Oh, you're welcome.
Excuse me.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Mendez. I'm the Architectural Access Specialist. I'm going to give the Architectural Access update. First, we are really excited to be planning our training. We are going to co-host a training for municipalities and commissions on disabilities, and the training is going to be titled How to Review Variance Applications. The presenter will be Executive Director of Architectural Access Board, Mr. Tom Hopkins, and we're going to hold it here in City Hall on May 18th. For those...
Should we as commission members attend that so that we can learn how to read? Once the board is up and running, I would like us to be able to look at all the variance requests. So that's probably something we should attend if we can.
Yes, absolutely. I will follow up with invitations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you who are wondering what's a variance is a special official permission to not comply with their architectural access code. Each case is reviewed case by case, and the decision is finalized. It could be granted, not granted, or it could be granted with conditions. The second is we held a City Hall Plaza event information meetings, and the fire department and property management for City Hall hosted an information meeting with potential event planners for the season on City Hall Plaza. And some of them are the circus, Hub Week, taco event, the Puerto Rican festival, and events like that. So we talked about accessibility, we talked about communications, and we talked about accessible entrance and restrooms and things like that, and communicating with us early on in the process and sharing their layouts to make sure that we are addressing early on accessibility issues. Next, I'm going to talk about a couple of pilots here in the city. The first pilot is a small project here in City Hall that is upgrading the window that takes care of the walk-in publics for the parking clerk. And the scope of that work is small because it's a pilot, and with the lessons learned from that pilot, other projects within City Hall will be informed. This particular project is lighting, workspace upgrades, and wayfinding. The other pilot that I want to talk about is for emergency flood. There's this product that is called Aqua Fence, and it's being tested right now. I don't know if you remember last month's flood event here in the city. It was deployed around a building, and it contains the water outside. And it will go through a permit application through the city. And for now, the main concerns for the use of that fence around the building is accessibility and is the egress for a building. So the ISD and police department and fire department are very aware and very concerned that this fence is not going to be used while the building is occupied. And again, this is still in pilot stage. One more update about the PIC, Public Improvement Commission. We had a lot of conversations with the proponent that is coming to 500 Boylston Street. The developer is going to reconstruct the entire sidewalk block at 500 Boylston Street. And we are very happy with the proposal. It's going to make the entire sidewalk better. It's going to have a continuous concrete accessible path around the block. It's going to have better materials, and it's going to have improvements on the curb cuts of the block in Boylston Street. That's it for me. Any questions?
Patricia, it's Jerry. When does the season start for like events and stuff like that? When are the events, like the various events hosted on the plaza? When does that typically start?
It's in the warmer weather, but I think it's a packed schedule, starting very soon. I think right now the winter event is it's taken down. Yes, starting very soon. I don't have specific dates, but I can find out for you.
That's good to hear that they were open to feedback and you were able to present to the incoming vendors or the proposed vendors anyway.
I have a question. This is Felicia Birdsong. The May 18th event, the variance review, what room is that going to be in? Do you know?
It's going to be in the Piedmont room at 1:30 to 4:30 here in City Hall.
Anybody on the phone have questions for Patricia? Does anybody from the public have questions specific to what Patricia talked about? Hearing none, thank you very much, Patricia.
Thank you, Carl.
Next, we're going to move on to old business. I think we're still waiting to build the commission up, so we're still going to hold off on elections and things like that. I have asked the commissioner in the disability office that once the commission is fully staffed, I know they're going through interviews right now for potential candidates, and once the commission is fully staffed and we're all sworn in, that they be some sort of retreat done so that we can learn about what the roles of the commission members are and get to know each other outside of a meeting. I think that would be fun.
Excellent. Good idea.
Is there any other old business that I'm not thinking of that the commission members would like to bring up?
No.
How about any new business? Does anybody have any concerns or new business to bring up that they would like to discuss? Could somebody please repeat?
It's difficult to hear, but
She's going to try to turn up the volume.
Carol,
Sorry, we're on full volume and can't really hear you. Can you please repeat that?
Sure. I was asking if Carl could send the dates that you mentioned earlier. The event, the awareness day.
Of the State House events.
Oh, I can, sure, I'd be happy to repeat some of the State House events.
Oh, can you send them, she
Oh,
said?
sure, I'll do that tomorrow, yes.
That'd be great. Thanks, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
So no old items, okay? No new items, okay? Do we have any input from the public? Now's the time to bring up your concerns or whatever you want to mention.
Yes, we do, Carl. We have 2 individuals with their hands raised.
Great. So please make your, if possible, please make your way up to the podium and state your name.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. My first meeting. My name is Catherine Gallagher. I have a particular question about secondhand smoke from someone else's apartment floating into my own apartment. Very recently, less than 6 weeks ago, I was told that I had fluid in my lungs, one lung rather, my right lung, which is a very serious matter. And I spoke to the management, and they printed up something which was very legal. And when I read it, I realized it seems that they can't possibly check on the quality of air. And I was also informed that there's a 10-month period when the person who is a chronic smoker, I'm not talking about 3 cigarettes a day, I'm talking about morning, noon, and night continuously. That individual will be allowed 10 months, hopefully, to withdraw from a smoking addiction. But in that 10 months, where is my protection? Thank you.
So I actually don't know the answers to any of these questions or concerns that you raised. This is a new area for me, and I'm assuming the other commission members. So my question is, have you reached out to the housing department to talk to them and ask for them for advice?
And also, this is Felicia, have you reached out to Inspectional Services or the Boston Public Health Commission?
Boston Public Health Commission.
Yeah, I would think Boston Public Health Commission.
To be a head injury survivor.
Okay.
So I've gone through it all, you know.
Yeah, I would try Inspectional Services and the Boston Public Health Commission. They may have some information on the apartment, on the resident piece, as well as the smoking cessation piece. I don't know for sure, but that would seem like a good place to start.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Carl, this is Jessica. I'll also say on behalf of our office that we'll have someone talk to you, ma'am, afterwards and get your contact info. And then our office can follow up with you as well and give you some of the contact info for the different departments that the board members have mentioned. We'd be happy to do that.
Impressed with the meeting.
I'm so glad to hear that. So thank you so much for bringing that to us, and we'll have somebody reach out to you specifically in the next couple days, but we'll get your contact. Make sure you've given your contact information to somebody, whether it's me or somebody else from our office today. No problem.
And I believe we had one more member of the public?
Two more.
Several, okay. If you can, make your way up to the podium.
My name is Charles Papsador. I'm a Brookline resident. The only thing I'm going to talk about, I love Boston, is just the handicap parking. In front of North Harvard Street, you have the handicap parking in front of the library, but there's the curb. So because I see you guys all got power chairs, I'm on a manual chair, and I still drive. So when you sit there and you park in front of the Brighton, Alston Library, I'm on the street. There's no curb access until you get to the end of the sidewalk on both ways. So in order for me, you're putting me in the street. And there's 3 other spots too, MBTA, I'm glad she's here, down Coolidge Corner, I don't know, in front of Pino's Pizza, you have the crosswalk there, no handicap parking. So once again, when I drive down there, I have to take my walker, my wheelchair, I have to go out in the street in order to access the curb cutout. That street, Cambridge Street, in front of Alston Diner, you put the handicap parking in the middle of the sidewalk. Once again, I'm in my wheelchair, I have to access the street in order to get to that curb cutout. I would just like the handicap parking being close to the curb cutouts. That's basically it.
Okay, I'm going to let Jessica answer this one because I believe she's in charge of the handicap parking program for the city of Boston.
Hi, Carl. Thanks so much, and thank you for your concern. We actually did receive your email, and so Jamie, who actually runs the program, I supervise Jamie running the program, and so Jamie, Commissioner, and I are all going to meet to discuss specifically that situation. I know exactly what library you're talking about and exactly the space, and so we're going to take a look at it. So thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
Next.
Hi, this is Maggie Austin. I was here last month presenting on behalf of the Institute for Human-Centered Design, IHCD, and I just wanted to start tonight by making it really clear that I'm here tonight as a Boston City resident and not in any way, shape, or form representing IHCD. So just to be really clear, I'm very excited to see some friendly faces in the room. My concern that I wanted to present to the advisory board tonight and to the commission was that I've run into a significant number of situations where, due to a parked or standing or loading or unloading vehicle very close to an intersection or crosswalk or blocking a curb cut, I've been put in some very dangerous situations where my guide dog has guided me into the intersection in order to avoid a backing up car, or I've been beeped at when waiting to cross a street that's blocked by a truck that's unloading, and a variety of things. And my suggestions are really that, A, there be an increase in the number of audible pedestrian signals in the city, especially along Congress Street, and especially right at the intersection where Congress starts and Merrimack and New Clarendon, or whatever that street is called. There's like 7 streets right there. It's a little overwhelming. And that the meter maids or transit traffic police officers are really encouraged by the commission and the advisory board to enforce the rules and laws that are already in place in our city. Vehicles are not supposed to park or stand within 20 feet of intersections. And there are exceptions to those rules, and I would encourage the commission to look seriously at those exceptions because I think they're still creating really dangerous situations. And my third suggestion is to even consider the design of the way that they're communicating with the public about parking near intersections and crosswalks and curb cuts. Whether that's the colored stripe on the ground or the signage nearby, I think those are really important. And as a city resident, the way that I interact with intersections in the city really impacts the way that I function independently. And the less safe I feel interacting and crossing and using intersections in the city, the more I rely on services like paratransit. So I'm sure that that's true for other people in the city, and I'm sure improving the intersections and the way we interact with traffic and vehicles in the city will just help improve that dynamic. I've written the commission and the advisory board a letter documenting some of my specific incidences to just give you some evidence. I've emailed that to a few folks, and I have some hard copies here if anyone would like one. My very poor attempt at large print is also available.
So Jessica, could you perhaps get an electronic copy of that and share that with the commission, and maybe we can discuss that at the April meeting?
Yes, Carl, absolutely. I did notice that
We were CC'd on that, actually.
Yeah, I think actually some of you were probably CC'd on it. If you were not, I was. and we'll make sure that
I
the
don't-
letter gets to you
I don't
guys.
remember seeing it.
It was sent only about 5 or 10 minutes before the board meeting.
Oh, okay.
So no pressure if you didn't get it. I happen to have my laptop with me right now,
Okay.
which is how I knew that it got sent out.
Then if we got it, perhaps we can put it on as an agenda item to look at.
Absolutely,
next.
absolutely. So what I will do is I will, resend it with some of the other stuff that we've talked about tonight.
Okay.
And then we'll also probably have an internal meeting prior to the board meeting to
Okay.
discuss it from an infrastructure and from a policy standpoint in our office. And then we'll bring it to you guys of what we've kind of discussed and whether or not we've arrived at any sort of decision and get your input as well.
So it may be under the commissioner's report or something?
Yep,
and
so
then
it'll
it's
either be under the commissioner's report or
another.
old business.
Yeah,
I know we often
okay.
don't have things under old business. This will be a new old business
Great.
for everybody.
Awesome.
And so we'll make sure that we
right,
take a look at this for the later month.
Go ahead.
And this is Kyle. I mean, I would also, I don't know if it'd be helpful, but maybe have someone from the transportation department, whoever handles enforcement related to that. Be interesting to have them come to this meeting, or a bunch of us to
She's here.
meet with them around, well, no, the city of Boston, not the MBTA. Well, in addition to MBTA, but I was referencing the Boston Transportation Department, just around, because I think it is an issue that happens all throughout the city every day, and it'd be great to kind of build some awareness among the transportation department, but also the Boston Transportation Department, and so forth.
Absolutely. So thank you, Kyle. Related to that, you'll notice that we're going to have more city departments come and present, like we did having Immigrant Advancement present today. So definitely we will put that on to see whether or not it's someone from transportation or parking enforcement specifically, to see if we can have someone come and present at next month. Additionally, if you guys have any specific departments that you would like to hear from, if you're curious about the work they do, curious about an issue related to their work, shoot those emails over to Jamie and I, and we'll work to get those city departments on agendas for the future.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maggie.
Anybody else from the public?
I believe we have 2 more, Carl.
Okay.
Elizabeth Deanclower, Boston resident. As a new resident of Boston, I'm coming across situations in my vicinity and travels where there aren't automatic drawer buttons, and there should be for public buildings, or they might be just in sets of double doors. The outermost door next to the sidewalk, it does have a button, but the inner door doesn't. And I didn't know what is the best way to handle that situation as far as getting that complaint addressed. That in one case I was told, we don't own the building, you'd have to take that up with our landlord. And so is that something that I would, if I just say the name of the business I was dealing with, would that be how, in a letter to the commission, is that the best way?
I would, and I'll let Patricia answer if I answer this wrong, I would suggest filing the complaint with the Architectural Access Board, but I will let Patricia answer that more fully.
Sure, yes. It's true the landlord is responsible to address those issues. And Carl is also correct that you can put a complaint with the Architectural Access Board. Sometimes the first step is having a conversation with the landlord. They might not know that they're having an issue, and they might be responsive, and you don't have to go through like the legal structured access route.
If she wants to file a complaint, if she does talk to the landlord and is unable to get anywhere, how would one person go about filing a complaint with the architectural?
Constituent would like a follow-up, Carl.
Yep.
I appreciate knowing about filing it with the Architectural Access Board, because in this case, this is a well-known commercial district on Boylston Street. The business I was dealing with said we've discussed it with our landlord. They haven't done anything. So this is not one of those issues of a smaller private building or a small entity, or where this hasn't been brought to the attention previously. And so I think I definitely agree it's appropriate to take measured steps to get things accomplished, but this is a case where there's no question that it's been already brought to the attention, and I think it just has not been addressed. So thanks.
Thank you. I'll be happy to follow up by email with the referral.
Okay, thank you.
One more.
I think there was one more.
Next.
Hello.
Good evening. This is my son Bryce. He is 7 years old and he has autism spectrum disorder. My name is Michelle Jenkins and I am the founder of Bryce's Journey, a newly launched nonprofit organization devoted to helping underprivileged children with autism spectrum disorder in Boston. Autistic children have a need to socialize, but they lack certain social skills, and each child's skills are different. Mothers with autistic children are searching for a social skills group that will help children with autism learn how to deal with social encounters. As a mom and advocate, I too could not find these services, and for those reasons is why I created them in Bryce's Journey. Health insurance will only pay for a few sessions when the group is needed on a larger scale. When insurance runs out, these parents do not have funds to continue to send their children to these types of social skills groups. Bryce's Journey offers a social skills group led by a licensed clinician using evidence-based curriculums to give children with high-functioning autism the confidence and skills to hold a conversation and to properly socialize with the general public. My first social skills group will be held at Common Square Health Center in Dorchester on March the 9th, serving 2 groups of children in 2nd and 3rd grade. I would like your help to introduce this program to families with high-functioning school-aged autistic children. Being newly launched, we are in need of funding for the licensed clinicians to continue to run the groups and for more facilities to conduct our programs. Any funding or donations that we do receive will help the program to become more successful. Please, I encourage you to visit www.brycesjourney.org. Thank you for your time.
What is it again? What?
It's www.brycesjourney.org. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, what school does your son go to? Or does he go to BPS schools?
He goes to Edward Brook Charter School in Rosendale. So I couldn't get those services, and it was really hard to find a social skills group because they really don't take insurance. And so Bryce has got a lot of one-on-one therapy, and I give it to him weekly, but if I take that away, he regresses. So that's why I started my nonprofit, because I felt as if you put all the children together that they're high-functioning autistic, they can socialize amongst themselves instead of like it's different between a adult than with children. Mm-hmm. And so I started it, and it's going to start March 9th, and I know that it will be a success because the licensed clinician, her curriculum is really evidence-based, and it's going to help Bryce and a lot of other kids with autism socialize.
And what's your son's name again?
My name is Michelle Jenkins.
Hi.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry. We both have questions. So my name is Felicia Battles Birdsong, and I actually have a nephew that has autism, so
nice to meet you.
Have you reached out to the National Autism Foundation and any of the insurance companies like Tufts or Blue Cross in terms of support?
No, I have not.
Yeah, I would think about that. Although I know that Blue Cross had a small component. I can probably get the information for you, but the National Autism Foundation is a good place to start because of what you're doing. And someone else around the country may be doing the same thing, but you'll be able to find some support around that.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm just kind of brainstorming, so I'm thinking about, because I'm excited about what you do. The Children's Hospital, I don't know if that's your hospital now, but they have a department, and, I would connect to the outreach people and their mental health, and I would connect to the hospital, see what they have to offer.
So I connected with Cobbin Square Health Center. They were really nice to me. So they let me rent out a room. They donated it for free. So just because we're newly launched, I don't have my 501(c)(3) tax exempt status yet. But I'm so excited to do it, so I'm paying out of pocket for the licensed clinician. But I know that once we get up and running, then I could probably, have the grant writer go for funds and stuff like that. But I am excited to know that Common Square, they were very interested, and they know there's a need, to have the social skills group.
And also try the Institute of Arts Therapy. That would be a good place, because you might be able to get some of the clinicians to come in pro bono.
Okay.
To help you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And hi, my name is Ducia. I don't know if it's a question or more of a suggestion. I'm, by the way, I'm also on the spectrum. And I have, maybe also someone from the public will want to give you feedback, but I used to be in contact with the Asperger Autism Network in Watertown. I don't know if you heard about them, but they also have...
I have not.
Yes, but you can reach out to them, and they are, the last time when I was in contact with them, they had like social skill groups for adults and children.
Okay.
So you can try that and maybe collaborate with them if you want.
Okay, thank you very much.
Asperger, yes, Asperger Autism Network.
Okay.
The acronym is AANE.org, I think. You can Google it.
I will. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Come on, Olivia, you're not going to disappoint me, are you? I'm kidding. All right, I'm kidding. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn, anybody?
I second.
Me too.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Aye.
I was kidding.